What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So, Survivor Season 49, Episode 4 just premiered on Wednesday night. Now, last week, obviously, unfortunately, we saw Jake get medically evac'd after getting a dry bite from a sea crate. Unfortunately, ended his game far too early, and Jeremiah got voted out as well. The Blue Tribe has been struggling this whole season so far. Have not won anything, don't have Flint, don't really have food either, haven't won a single thing, but they are now down to 2 members in Sophie and Alex. So assuming coming into this episode that you are going to see some type of shakeup, unless we're going to run 2v2s in the challenges. But before we do jump in to this episode, if you could just hit that like and subscribe button down there. We'll have more Survivor content on the channel throughout the season, so just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. Now, back at the Blue Beach that night, it's on to Sophie and Alex, as we said. They've had to play this game, really, and jump in, where the other tribes haven't had to really vote or anything. Obviously, still strategizing and, who you're positioning yourself with for when you do have to start playing the game and voting people out. But they've really had to, play this game a lot already, and hoping that this is kind of the start of an underdog story for them, and they can take this together till the end. But they're sleeping on the beach and the water comes up, hits them laying there. It actually takes Sophie's shoe as well into the ocean, starts to take the boat as well. Just a cursed tribe if we've ever seen one. It's definitely up there in top 3 or so most cursed tribes ever on Survivor. I mean, did not win a single thing and just bad thing after bad thing happening. But next morning, the tribes arrive for a possible challenge, but like Jeff says afterwards, this is a classic Survivor fake out because they are switching tribes. Sophie and Alex are really excited to get those buffs off, throw them on the ground, stomp on them, bury them, say, get those cursed things away from us, essentially. The new tribe configurations are the yellow tribe is going to be Sophie, Matt, Rizzo, Juwan, Nate, Savannah, and Jason. Blue tribe going to be Alex, Steven, Christina, MC, Sophie, Shannon, and Sage. So yes, they are using the Blue Tribe Beach, which obviously has absolutely nothing, no fire, no food, no comfort, nothing. But at the Yellow Beach, everything you can imagine, 7 days into Survivor, and the new Yellow Tribe arrives there, and Sophie is really enjoying all the Survivor luxuries, if you will, while she is trying to capitalize on the beef between the 2 other tribes that there was in terms of red and yellow tribes before this swap, obviously. But Alex welcomes everyone to the Blue Beach with absolutely nothing. Shannon and Sage are the only 2 members from their old tribe on that beach, and Alex is obviously the only one from his tribe, since there was only 2 of them and they both got split up. But Alex explains the food situation to everyone, that they were at one point even eating worms from the ground, and I think it's going to be a problem for some of these other tribes, because considering some of them were eating crabs and whatnot, had abundance of coconuts. So definitely going to be interesting here to adjust to there on the Blue Beach. But Yellow Tribe, over at the Yellow Tribe, should I say, Savannah and Rizzo are enjoying sitting on the hammocks that the original Yellow Tribe worked so hard for, that they won for just one night. So that shows that the rivalry is still there between those 2 other tribes. But Sophie talks with Juwan, trying to roll with them as a majority she is. And Sophie and Savannah talk about sticking together. And Savannah says that, she reminds her, and Sophie reminds her of home and thinks that she's someone that she can trust. Sophie also does bring some news to her to kind of show that trust, that Alex did play his immunity idol that he found, the Beware Advantage, or Beware Idol, should I say, at the Tribal Council last night, which he asked her supposedly to not say anything, but she did, to try to earn that trust with Savannah, and I think it has paid off, or will pay off for her, should I say. But the next morning, Shannon leads her tribe in a morning meditation that we've seen her do so far on the season. Steven sees her as a big threat, though, with how she can connect with people. And over at the Yellow Tribe, Nate thinks that Sophie will be a good addition to them, and is someone who just wants to find a home in this game and be loyal. Savannah and Jason talk, and, you can tell how close that Jason feels with his old tribe. And, Savannah's like, at least he's being honest and upfront about it. But, he did mention about possibly, wanting to stay with them, but possibly trying to steer votes once we get to the merge. But, just doesn't seem like too much interest there in working together or turning on his old tribe, should I say. Savannah is using her interviewing skills on everyone, especially Matt, which she gets out of him that he was a fairly high up at a brokerage firm before working at the airport. And Savannah tells Juwan, you got to be a psychopath or a sociopath think she used the word sociopath, to be that high up, and you have to be someone that's cutthroat. So saying that Matt, like, you might not expect much from him, but once she started using those interviewing skills and start pulling some more stuff out, it's like, hey, this guy can really be a threat. And over at the Blue Tribe, Shannon and Christina kick it off and seems to have a good connection. Christina opens up about losing her mom 3 years ago, and a very, very emotional, but really appreciate her opening up and sharing that story about her mom with us. Appreciate any of these survivors sharing those personal stories out there, what they do with all of us, because obviously that is very tough. So appreciate that from Christina, being vulnerable with all of us. Sage is questioning Shannon and how hard she's playing with everyone, and trying super hard to connect with everyone, I guess is a good way to put it. But we head over to the immunity challenge. First time with the new tribes, obviously, and Christina brings in Sophie's shoe. Said they were walking and they found it on the beach and decided to be nice. I like it. You don't always have to be too cutthroat, especially with someone. It'd be easier to do with Sophie, that she's already had a ton of bad luck this season of Survivor, and throw her a bone, give her other shoe that you found. I like that, whatever. People can have their opinions on you, like, oh, you should just throw it back in the ocean. I like a little humanity out there, even though you are playing a game. That doesn't have too much effect on someone. But anyway, we move on to the immunity challenge, and playing for reward as well. It's a bunch of fruits as well, which the other Sophie, not Sophie from the Blue Tribe, but the other Sophie on this season, should I say. I hate referring to her as the other Sophie, but we have literally seen like 2 scenes like with her like actually talking. I think she might have had 1 or 2 confessionals to this point in the season. I think she'd be an interesting player. She's someone who I, in my fantasy survivor league, picked fairly far. We just haven't heard much from her, and one of the first things we hear from her this season is her saying like, oh, that's just like snack food. Was hoping for it was like something else. Everyone else is like, I'll take the fruit. Like, fruit's fine with me. So hopefully see more of Sophie going forward. But it's a very fun and intricate new challenge. You even have to get on people's shoulders to stack the blocks at the end, and getting on people's shoulders, and then that person getting on someone's back, and lifting people up, and starting a pyramid, I believe, was one of the tribe strategies at the end. But let me say, MC is the MVP of that challenge. Very impressive, and the Blue Tribe wins their first immunity challenge of the season, obviously with the reconfiguration of the tribe here. But unfortunately for the Yellow Tribe, and unfortunately really for Sophie, going back to Tribal Council. So Sophie's been to every Tribal Council to this point, but most of the people on Yellow, this will be their first time, obviously, going to Tribal Council. But Sophie believes that it won't be her, because the old Red Tribe wants someone from the old Yellow Tribe to go home. So obviously that points the fingers at Matt or Jason. But back at the Yellow Tribe camp, Rizzo tells Sophie about the Beware advantage, so now he needs to go start finding it. Luckily, Savannah, Joanne, and Nate were at the water well. They dig, they found Rizzo's idol clue that they needed. They find it, give it to him. Rizzo goes, heads off in the water, finds his idol, gets his vote back. So now Sophie, Savannah, and Rizzo talk about Jason, how he might be a better choice, because he seems like someone that's closer to the old tribe, and Matt can be somewhat of a shield for later on. But Matt is pitching Sophie's name, and that she's the weaker link of the 3 that are at the bottom in terms of Matt, Jason, and Sophie. And Matt talks with Nate and says basically anyone but me, but wants to be a part of the first big move. More on that here in a second, but Rizzo and Sophie talk to Jason and realizes that, Jason that is, realizes that it could be him or Matt. And he says he's going to play his shot in the dark, which obviously I'm sure many people say that, don't play it. But he doesn't seem like he really wants to work with them anyway, is the vibe that they're getting. Matt and Joanne meet up, and they did meet on the journey before, so they wanted to have that reconnection point, see if they can work together. Matt throws out to him to write down Nate's name, because it seems like he's in a power position. And honestly, though, it seems like a good plan if Joanne is on the bottom of his tribe. But he doesn't want to do it seems like, and he goes back and tells his old tribe, and Savannah is even like, he kind of is on the bottom of the tribe, but he doesn't seem really interested in making a move like that. And Savannah and Rizzo agree that it should be Jason, because he doesn't want to work with them, so why have him still in the game? And he's very cagey as well, where Matt has been kind of all over the place. But we head to Tribal Council for the first time, 6 of these 7 people there, and Nate is very out front that the 4 former Uli tribe members took to Sophie fairly quickly, and Matt said that he was pitching why it should be Jason or Sophie, but didn't know that Sophie had already been taken in, so congratulates her. But Savannah's up front that someone was trying to make, moves and, whatnot, obviously referring to Matt there, and one wasn't really open and working together, obviously referring to Jason there. But Nate does call out Matt for throwing Jason and Sophie under the bus. To be fair to Matt, though, he just pulled the Sandra line of, hey, anyone but me, which I agree to a point, and kind of a funny moment. He actually said it twice during the episode. It's like, I didn't like how Sandra played, but I hate to pull it, but anyone but me. Jeff points out, like, hey, it worked twice. She's one of only two-time winners here on Survivor. It worked, and, I get the point he was trying to make, but obviously it was successful to her. But at certain points when you get into a situation like this on Survivor, hey, it's kind of the attitude you got to have is, hey, anyone but me. Like, yeah, I want to try to drive this vote, but certain points you're just kind of backed into a corner. You have to be, hey, anyone but me. You want me to do that to get me to tomorrow to, maybe, win a challenge or, find an idol advantage or something. So, you sometimes just got to have that, kind of mindset. So I don't blame him for having that at all. But we head to the vote. No shots in the dark were played. Kind of surprised. Matt is voted out, and throwing Nate's name out there, should I say, really seemed to push it, even more over the edge. And, definitely, we see Nate kind of in a power position in that original tribe there and that alliance, especially of this 4. But I really do think that, Savannah and Rizzo are kind of like the ones long term who I think will make the big moves. I picked both of them fairly far in this game, and I think they'll be controlling things. But right now, I definitely think Nate, and I think Nate's definitely a big name that could get taken out here, possibly pre-merge or early merge, whatever. If Savannah and Rizzo, kind of part of that tribe right now can kind of just, kind of continue to sneak through once, if they make it to the merge and go forward. But now Jason did vote for Matt, so if he saw the writing on the wall, and that was something that he can possibly use, next time to, if, hey, maybe now, if it's one of their moves, if it's, say a Savannah or Rizzo, or like, hey, maybe we take out Nate, he, has a lot of pull and, good connections, whatever. And they do want to make that move. Hey, now Jason, who did vote for Matt, who he didn't seem like he wanted to do, but he did it. So now it's like, hey, is the door possibly open? So just something to watch out for going forward. And Jason, I mean, he has to be adaptable in this game. That's the way you have to be in Survivor. I think that's one of the key words to a Survivor player getting through a season is how adaptable can you be? But next week, the war seems to continue between the former 2 tribes, obviously now mixed on the different tribe configurations. Jawan, Savannah calling out possibly being the flipper, not calling out directly, but you know what I mean, calling out as someone who could possibly be a flipper, sometime later in the game. And then Sage and Shannon, which we saw a little bit this episode, could be coming for each other. So definitely an interesting week here with the tribe reconfigurations. Definitely interesting to see how this goes going forward. But anyway, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.